You know what completely blows my mind? 28% of people earning over $200,000 a year are living paycheck to paycheck. Let me say that again because it sounds insane. We're talking about individuals pulling in 4 times the median American salary, and they still can't make it from one paycheck to the next without financial stress. But here's where it gets even crazier. 75% of people making under $50,000 are in the exact same situation. So whether you're earning 50 grand or 200 grand, apparently nobody has figured out how to save money anymore. How is this even possible? Hi, I'm Matt, and on this channel, I break down personal finance strategies that actually work for real people in the real world. If you're tired of generic advice from people who don't understand what it's like to live on an actual budget, make sure to hit that subscribe button because what we're covering today is going to change how you think about your paycheck forever. Here's what's happening today. I'm going to show you exactly how much of your paycheck you should be saving based on November 2025 economic reality, not some outdated formula from a decade ago. We'll break down real numbers with actual expenses, expose the traps bleeding your bank account dry, and reveal the formula wealthy people use to save nearly 40% of their income while everyone else saves basically nothing. But here's what nobody is telling you about 2025. The game has completely changed. The Federal Reserve just released updated data for November 2025, and the average American savings rate is sitting at 3.8%. That means the typical person is saving less than 4% of what they earn. If you make $60,000 a year, that's $2,280 saved annually. That won't cover a major car repair and an emergency room visit in the same year, let alone build wealth or fund retirement. Think back to 2020 when the pandemic forced lockdowns. The personal savings rate exploded to 33.8% because there was literally nowhere to spend money, just rent, groceries, and Netflix. But the second everything reopened, the savings rate crashed. We went from saving a third of our income to barely saving anything within 18 months. That reveals something critical about human psychology. When we're surrounded by temptations everywhere, financial discipline evaporates. Your phone buzzes with a sale notification. Instagram shows you ads for products you didn't know existed but suddenly need. DoorDash offers free delivery. The friction has been removed from spending money, and that's destroying people's ability to save. Now let me show you something fascinating. The top 1% of earners saves roughly 38% of their income every year. The top 10% saves around 15%. Everyone else, the remaining 90% of Americans, their collective savings rate is basically zero. So if you asked me point blank right now how much of your paycheck you should be saving, I'd tell you to aim for that top 1% benchmark of 38% if you want to build serious wealth. But I also understand reality. For most people earning under $100,000, 38% isn't realistic when rent alone eats up 30 to 40% of take-home pay. A more achievable target is between 15 and 20% of your gross income. But here's what most financial advice ignores. Your ideal savings rate isn't a one-size-fits-all. It depends on your specific goals, your age, and your debt situation. Let me ask you directly, what are you actually saving for right now? An emergency fund? Retirement? A down payment? Each goal requires a different approach and savings rate.
Let's stop talking in theory and get into actual numbers, because vague advice helps nobody. I'm going to walk you through a detailed case study of someone making $60,000 a year, and we'll use November 2025 cost data because prices have changed dramatically. This person lives in Dallas, Texas, which represents a relatively affordable market, but still reflects real modern expenses. $60,000 annually breaks down to $5,000 in gross monthly income. But nobody lives on gross income, so we need to calculate take-home pay after taxes. Using a current paycheck calculator for Texas, which has no state income tax, the semi-monthly paycheck is approximately $1,941. That's 2 paychecks per month, so $3,882 in actual take-home pay hitting your bank account every month. This is the only number that matters. Now let's talk about where that money disappears to. Fixed expenses come first. Rent for a 1-bedroom apartment in a decent Dallas neighborhood is running about $1,400 as of November 2025. Just 3 years ago, that same apartment was around $1,000. That's a 40% increase. Car payment, $400 monthly. Gas and car insurance combined, $350 per month. Utilities, including electricity, water, and internet, $150. Our fixed expenses, the costs you absolutely cannot avoid without major life changes, total $2,300 per month. That leaves $1,582 for everything else. But this is where things get dangerous. Variable expenses are the silent killers of savings accounts. Coffee, $50 monthly. Entertainment, including streaming services and occasional movies, $100. Gym membership, $50. Groceries, and pay attention here because grocery prices in November 2025 are up 25% compared to 2021 levels. $400 if you're cooking most meals at home. And then there's the category that absolutely destroys budgets in 2025, food delivery and eating out. Pause for a second and actually think about this. How many times in the last 7 days did you order DoorDash or Uber Eats because you were too tired to cook? How many times did you grab lunch during your workday because you didn't meal prep? Every delivery order comes loaded with fees. Delivery fee, service fee, small order fee, driver tip. A $12 burrito becomes $23. If you're doing this 3, 4, 5 times per week, you're easily burning through $600 monthly, and you don't even realize it because it's all digital and doesn't feel like real money. Variable expenses total $1,200 every month. Combined with our $2,300 in fixed costs, we're at $3,500 total monthly expenses. Remember our take-home pay? $3,882. That leaves exactly $382 at the end of every month. That's a savings rate of roughly 10% of take-home pay, or about 6% of gross income. And here's the thing, this person is actually doing better than the majority of Americans who save nothing at all. But let's say this person sets a goal. They want to save $10,000 for an emergency fund. They currently have $1,000 saved, so they need $9,000 more. At their current rate of $382 per month, how long will it take? Do the math. 9,000 divided by 382 equals 23 and a half months, almost 2 full years to save $9,000. And here's the devastating reality. One unexpected expense, one medical bill, one major car repair, and that entire timeline either extends or completely resets to zero. What if they wanted to reach that goal faster, let's say 12 months instead of 23? The calculation is simple. 9,000 divided by 12 equals $750 they need to save monthly. But they're only saving $382 right now. They need to find an additional $368 every single month. Where does that money come from?
This is where we need to talk about the lifestyle inflation trap that's absolutely everywhere in 2025, and it's killing people's finances in ways that didn't even exist 10 years ago. Let me ask you something specific. How many subscription services are you paying for right now? And I don't mean just the obvious ones like Netflix and Spotify. I'm talking about everything. Netflix, Hulu, Max, Disney Plus, Paramount Plus, Apple TV, Amazon Prime, YouTube Premium, that meditation app you use twice, the fitness app charging you for 6 months, cloud storage you forgot about, the auto-renewed news subscription. I guarantee most people are spending between $150 to $200 monthly on subscriptions, and you probably actively use maybe half of them. Then there's something even more insidious, the algorithm. Social media platforms in 2025 have evolved into precision-engineered spending machines. You're doom scrolling through Instagram and suddenly an ad appears for a product you didn't know existed 5 seconds ago, but now you're convinced you need it. One click, Apple Pay, dopamine hit, purchase complete before your rational brain engaged. TikTok Shop has made impulse buying so frictionless, you can go from watching a video to owning a product in 30 seconds. The algorithm studies your behavior, learns your weaknesses, and serves you content designed specifically to make you spend money. Food delivery apps have created an insane convenience trap. Back in 2019, getting food delivered meant calling a restaurant and waiting 45 minutes. Now you can have almost anything at your door in 20 minutes. That convenience comes with a massive financial cost most people never calculate. DoorDash, Uber Eats, Grubhub, Instacart, every order is marked up. The restaurant charges more on the app, then there's the delivery fee, service fee, small order fee, and driver tip. It compounds quickly, and the insidious part is it doesn't feel like real spending because it's all on your phone. No physical cash, no swiping a card, just tap, 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 and food appears. If you're still watching right now, you're already in the top 10% of people who actually want to change their financial situation instead of just complaining about it. Most people click away when the content gets uncomfortable because they don't want to confront their actual spending habits. But you're still here, which tells me you're serious about this. Here's what I want you to do.
Pull out your phone, open your bank app, and scroll through your transactions from the past 30 days. How many charges are from delivery apps? How many are subscription services you forgot existed? How many are impulse purchases from Instagram or TikTok ads you don't even remember buying? I'm willing to bet you'll find at least $200 to $300 of spending you didn't even consciously remember doing. That's the 2025 trap. Money disappears digitally and silently while you're distracted by content specifically designed to lower your financial guard. The wealthy don't think about saving the way normal people do. They don't get to the end of the month and save whatever's left over because there's never anything left over. They automate savings first before anything else gets paid, then live on whatever remains. It's called paying yourself first, and it's the fundamental difference between people who build wealth and people who stay broke forever. Here's exactly how it works. The moment your paycheck deposits, before you pay a single bill, a predetermined percentage automatically transfers to savings or investments. Not optional, not negotiable, completely automatic. You never see that money, you never touch it, you forget it exists. Let's say you commit to saving 15% of your gross income. On a $60,000 salary, that's $900 per month, or roughly $750 after taxes. That money automatically moves to a high-yield savings account earning 4.5 to 5% interest as of November 2025. Then you live your entire life on the remaining $3,132. Your brain adapts within 2 to 3 months. That becomes your new normal. You adjust your lifestyle to fit that number because you have to.
But I know exactly what you're thinking right now. What if you have debt? What if you're sitting on $25,000 in student loans or $7,000 in credit card debt? This is the question that paralyzes people for years because they don't know whether to focus on saving or paying off debt first. And the answer in November 2025 is actually very clear once you understand the math. It all comes down to interest rates. Credit card debt right now is averaging between 21 and 24% interest. Student loans range anywhere from 3% to 7%. Here's the key insight. If you have high interest debt, above 8 to 10%, paying that off is mathematically identical to earning a guaranteed investment return at that same interest rate. Think about it this way. If you owe someone money at 20% interest and you pay off that debt, you just earned a 20% return on your money. Find me another investment that guarantees 20% annually with zero risk. It doesn't exist. The stock market historically averages 8 to 10% per year. But paying off 20% interest debt? That's a guaranteed 20% return you cannot get anywhere else. Are you paying 20% interest on a credit card while your savings account earns 4%? Because if you are, you're losing 16% every single year. That's absolute financial insanity. But millions of people do it because they've been told they need an emergency fund while simultaneously carrying expensive debt. The math doesn't work. You need to kill the high-interest debt first. Here's the priority system that actually makes sense in November 2025. If you have consumer debt above 10% interest, attack that aggressively while maintaining a minimal emergency fund of $1,000 to $2,000. Once the high-interest debt is eliminated, then build your emergency fund to 3 to 6 months of living expenses. After that's established, start investing 15 to 20% of your income. This is the sequence that works. Now let's talk about something that's absolutely exploded in 2025 and is destroying people's finances. Buy now, pay later services. Affirm, Afterpay, Klarna, Sezzle, every single online retailer offers some version of split payments now. Instead of seeing a $600 purchase that makes you pause and reconsider, you see 4 easy payments of $150. Your brain processes that as affordable even though the total cost is identical. You're not thinking about the fact that you now have 4 different payment obligations spread across the next 3 months. Here's what most people don't realize. Affirm alone generated over $1.8 billion in revenue in 2024, with roughly 40% coming directly from interest charges and late fees. They're not offering split payments out of generosity. They're betting you'll miss a payment or underestimate how many different buy now, pay later accounts you have running. These payment plans don't always appear on your credit report until you miss one, which means you can have 5 or 6 different payment obligations and not fully grasp how leveraged you are until it's too late. Paying off high-interest debt is a guaranteed return at whatever rate you're being charged, and the return is tax-free. If you earn 20% in the stock market, you're paying capital gains tax. If you save 20% by eliminating debt, you keep the full benefit.
Now let's address the elephant in the room. We've spent significant time talking about cutting expenses and optimizing savings, but there's a hard limit to how much you can cut. You can't reduce rent below zero, you need food, you need basic transportation. At some point, the only way to dramatically improve your financial situation is to increase your income. And November 2025 is honestly one of the most interesting times in modern history to boost income if you know where to look. The remote work revolution that began in 2020 is now permanent for millions of positions. If you live in a low cost of living area but work remotely for a company based in New York or San Francisco, you can potentially earn coastal salaries while living on Midwest or Southern expenses. That spread is a complete game changer for savings rates. Side income and freelancing have been transformed by AI tools in 2025. You can use ChatGPT or Claude to write content, analyze data, build websites, generate marketing copy. The gig economy has matured beyond just driving for Uber. You can rent out your car on Turo, teach skills online, offer freelance services. But here's what actually matters more than any specific side hustle. The skill that increases income long-term is about solving problems people will pay to have solved. What are people constantly complaining about? What tasks do people hate doing? If you can solve those problems better, faster, or cheaper than current options, you can charge money for it. What percentage of your paycheck are you actually saving right now? Be completely honest with yourself. Is it 0%? Is it 5%? Is it 15%? Because here's the data that should either make you feel validated or scare you into immediate action. The median bank account balance for someone under age 35 in 2025 is $4,200. Not $42,000, $4,200 total. That means half of everyone under 35 has less than that amount, and half have more. If you're above that number, you're already doing better than 50% of your entire peer group. For people between ages 35 and 44, the median balance is $6,300. Notice something? Even with a full decade of additional work experience, the median only increased by about $2,000. That's because most people never fundamentally change their financial habits. They earn more money as they age, but they also spend more through lifestyle inflation. And their savings rate stays flat or even decreases. Net worth tells an even more revealing story. The median net worth for someone under 35 is approximately $18,000 as of 2025. That includes everything: bank accounts, retirement accounts, home equity, vehicle value, minus all debts. For the 35 to 44 age bracket, median net worth jumps to about $52,000. But before you panic if you're below these benchmarks, here's what actually matters more than your current position. It's not about where you are right now. It's about the trajectory you're on moving forward. If you're 25 years old with $5,000 saved, but you're consistently saving 15% of your income, you're on a dramatically better path than someone who's 35 with $20,000 saved, but currently saving 0%. The compounding effect of consistent saving behavior over decades is exponentially more powerful than any single large amount saved one time. Here's something that might surprise you. Gen Z workers are actually demonstrating better savings habits than millennials showed at the same age. The average Gen Z employee is saving about 12% of income, compared to roughly 8% for millennials. Gen Z watched millennials struggle through 2008, student debt, and the pandemic, and they learned from it. Where do you fall on these age-based benchmarks? Are you ahead of the median, behind it, or somewhere in the middle? And here's the more important question. What specific action are you going to take in the next 7 days to improve your position? The bottom line isn't what you think it is. Everyone wants me to give them one perfect number. Save exactly 17.2% and everything will work out perfectly. But that's not how money actually works in real life with real people facing real challenges. The honest answer is this. You need to save as much as you possibly can while still maintaining a life you genuinely enjoy living. Because here's what nobody talks about in personal finance. If you optimize so aggressively for savings that you're miserable and deprived every single day, you will eventually break. You'll snap and blow all your accumulated progress in one massive spending bench. The goal isn't to achieve the highest possible savings rate on paper so you can brag about it online. The goal is to build a sustainable system that works for decades without breaking. A system where you're automatically saving 15 to 20% before you even see the money, where you're investing those savings in assets that compound and grow over time, where you're not stressed about every small purchase, and where you're still able to enjoy your life today while simultaneously building for your future. That's what actual financial freedom looks like, not some arbitrary number in a bank account, but the genuine feeling of being in control and moving in the right direction. So what's the one specific change you're making this week?